Welcome to the Build a Purposeful, Profitable Business Doing What You Absolutely Love podcast, hosted weekly by Ange, your business fairy godmother, professional copywriter, published author and business owner of 20 years. In every episode, Ange will deliver useful bite-sized insights to help you find your voice, position your value, demystify the marketing tech, and run your business on your terms.
Okay, welcome to episode 10, and today I have a wonderful guest with me, and that's Effie Moss. She runs a marketing agency in the UK that specialises in building communities and brand stories for businesses globally. So Effie, welcome to the program. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Great. So we're going to be talking, I believe, maybe first of all, just introduce yourself and just tell everyone exactly who you are in your own words.
Okay. So a huge hello to everybody. I suppose I should say thank you so much for listening to Ange's podcast. I feel very honoured to be here today. But Ange and I, we've been working together for nearly a year. Would you say nearly a year? And yes, I run an agency from the UK and work with different companies throughout the world, really, building communities for them and helping them find their voice and establishing a brand presence for them online. So yes, lots of stories to share, lots of learnings to share, which I hope everyone will find useful.
Fantastic. So what I want to talk about today, and I think the listeners will have a lot of interest in, and I think it's something that challenges a lot of business owners, is building that community and having people interested in what you're doing and attracting people to you, basically. So can you talk a bit about, first of all, why is it important that you build a community around your business?
I think let me just take one step back and just say, what is a community? Because it's really interesting. I've had many different types of conversations across different markets around community over the years. And firstly, the reason that I'm able to talk about community is because I've built my own communities to reach millions and millions of people across the world regularly on a weekly basis. And through that, as you know, the different platforms have grown up, as our algorithms have changed, as the way that we've learned how to engage online, it has formed this concept of community. And I always say the community is a very unsexy word, but it means so much. And basically, in my mind, when I talk about community, it's the connection between all of the different touch points across your business. So it's not just a Facebook page or an Instagram account. It's not just TikTok, YouTube, podcasts, all these wonderful things. Community is the very thin golden thread that connects all of those parts together for your business. It includes your website. It includes the calls that you make. It's how you represent your business, your brand, your voice, and how you take your customers on that journey to understand who you are, what you do, and why you do it. So it's fascinating because normally the first point of contact I have is, I want to build a big Facebook page. I want to build a big Instagram account. And my instant reaction to that is why? What do you want to achieve by building a community? Now, I always talk about placing community at the heart of a marketing strategy because I think actually it contributes massively in terms of growing your business as well, finding your own voice and the message that you want to share, connecting with your audience and really listening to what they want from you. So no matter if you're a product business, service business, whether you're B2B, B2C, the principles are still all very much the same. And in terms of why do you need a community, I think it's because actually you will build advocates, people that will stand by you, people who will value what you have to offer. And then also actually that you can learn from, I'll say the olden days, and I'll go back to probably maybe, years and years ago. I'm not going to show my age here, Ange. But so people would take out, do you remember like big marketing ads in papers and spend thousands of pounds and things like that just to try and get people? And we've got wonderful tools and this wonderful way now of connecting with our audience and trying to figure out what they want from us. And then us trying to then convince them, yes, we've got this great product and service that you need, and eventually convert that to a sale. So I think community does a lot of things. I think what's very interesting is that now that the platforms have started to grow up, and they've all kind of found their feet, Their understanding as well that, in community is massively important because it enables people to have good conversations about very important topics, as well as, things they can bring into their business that everyone can benefit from. And that's why, like someone like Facebook, if you look at actually the mechanisms of Facebook, for example, the amount of times I've heard, they would just want you to spend ad money and they just want you to do this. Of course they do. That's their revenue model. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So now we all know that. How are we going to work with it?
Yeah. And we had it free for so long. It was so good for so long, right?
Exactly.
But like with any business, if you want to advertise, you need to pay, right?
Yeah, exactly. But also, they've given you some amazing tools. So if you look at something like Facebook, they give you the group feature. They're giving you a dedicated space that you can build, your business and nurture your customers and have good conversation with. We're using tools that enables you to make, that job just that little bit easier.
Right.
But community is also really interesting because there are a lot of people, like, for example, I don't come away from the fact that I run a marketing agency and I build communities for people, which sometimes can also be like, it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation because it's not a case of throwing stuff over the fence and somebody saying, well, you go and do my post for me. You go and work out what my voice is. As a business owner, you should know your voice. You'll know your message. You need to stand in front of it and represent your business. Okay. And you can have people who can help you do that. And help you like maximize your content, maximize the things that you want to say. But that's a very collaborative effort. And I've always found that the best communities that I've gone to build has always been in collaboration where both sides are working together.
I think that's a good point because one of the things in my mind is as you're talking about that is it can be really overwhelming for a business owner or one person. And you've got so many different platforms and like you were mentioning them, they're Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Where do you focus kind of thing? So what is your advice to people? You mentioned collaboration, so making it easier that way.
Yeah.
How do they focus?
So I have a rule. I have a rule. And I always say start with 1 to 2 communities and do them really, really well. Now, right. And then move on to the others. And don't worry that there is so many other platforms and you need to be everywhere and do everything. Because actually what ends up happening is you end up creating community for content for your community in one platform. And then all you do is then spam the rest of your platforms with the same content. But there are different people on those platforms using them. They want to be spoken to in a different way. So I'll always say choose 1 to 2 and do them very well. How to choose 1 to 2 will depend on who your audience is, where they live, what do you want to tell them, what do they want to know. For some businesses, Instagram might be better. For some businesses, it's YouTube. For others, it might be TikTok or it's Facebook. And then don't forget other things other assets that you own. So you own your blogs, you own your websites, for example. And you need to make sure that when you're creating all of that content and you're driving traffic to your business, that your website is also able to work in conjunction with all of the other assets that you have, because actually you're sending your hard-earned traffic there and you need to make sure that the website does the job of representing your voice and converting that traffic. And I know you're smiling at me as I'm talking because I think you know this. I think we're thinking about this. And it's down to, like I said, community can be a very unsexy thing. It's not going to be sparkly magpie effects, right?
Yeah.
It's a place where if you can actually put a lot of your effort into and get it right, it will see you through for years to come. And those people support you as you continue to grow and nurture your business. If you pivot, they will still be there to support you because it's very much around taking people on a journey, and then making sure that you talk with them, not at them. And that's another interesting thing is that when people create content, a lot of it's me. This is what I do. This is my business. This is why I'm brilliant. But what they're not doing is, how can it help you? I want to listen. Tell me how it can help you, and listen. And I think when you do that, then you can have really good, valuable conversations online that go on to help you grow your business.
Right. So it's really coming from a space of giving.
Yes.
It's not about you, it's about them, right?
Yes. We know it. I mean, we hear it all the time. All of the big marketing gurus, they'll say it. And then you'll sit there and you'll say, well, how? How can I do that? They're not telling me how. They're telling me what I need to do. And it's, you know, how would you have a conversation if you rocked up to speak to a friend and had a piece of cake and a cup of tea, or a glass of wine in most cases? But it's like, you know, and that's all it is. You know, would you go and would you walk up to somebody in the street and just stand there and say to them, this is what I do, you know? You wouldn't, would you? And it's the exact same principle, but you're just doing it online, and we just need to remember.
Yeah, and I think with this COVID situation where people are locked in their houses now and they've got no choice but to go online, I think now people are finding their feet online and being a bit more comfortable, or a lot more comfortable with communicating that way.
Yeah, it's an art. It's an art, and also
it takes practice, right?
And it is, and community is wonderful because I think it actually humanizes it. It helps you to humanize your brand and your story.
Right.
You know, and there's all these principles that we talk around when we're building community. And I'll name a couple here, just to hopefully it will help some people who are listening. But one is trust. Your content needs to build trust, and then what I'm saying isn't science, like magic, you know. It's when you listen, you kind of go, oh yeah, that makes sense, you know. But they're very common sense type principles. So the first one is trust. You need to establish trust. One is relatability. So there is no point if you run a cake shop. Let's use cake, my favorite analogy. If you run a cake shop, you're not going to necessarily be attracting somebody who, you know, and maybe just wants to buy a motorbike. You know, there has to be some synergy between kind of your community and the purpose of it, right? So relatability, why would they relate to you?
And it's focusing basically on the people that will buy from you, and you know, you're not going to get everybody, right? Yeah,
exactly. It's not you be something to everybody, and that's why I say choose 1 to 2 communities and do them well before you start branching out. The other one is authenticity. This is a word that's bandied around an awful lot, and people think, oh, that must mean that I need to then, you know, track a diary every single day publicly of what I do in my life because I'm being authentic. No, it doesn't mean that. It means that if you're building a purposeful business, if you're building something, and a lot of us are now building purposeful businesses, trying to fix a problem in the world that they feel that they can, you know, share that story. Why? Why does it resonate with you? Because I promise you, if it resonates with you, it will resonate with them. And this is why when I was talking about throwing content over the fence and asking people to be a social media manager for you, it works best in collaboration because you want to get that authenticity across.
Right.
And it's not my voice. It should always be your voice or their voice, for example.
Right. So they've got to be willing to invest the time in putting that stuff out that they're communicating personally.
Yeah. Okay. And there are very clever ways of doing that, which we can talk about. That's fine. But, you know, and so if I just talk about those 3 principles alone, there's actually 6, but those 3 principles alone, you know, that's if you can use those as a foundational step when you're building a community, then, you know, you're on your way there. There's other types of content that I talk about when you're creating content, because another common one is, I haven't got time to write content. I haven't got time to show up every single day. And it's like, oh, well, okay, if you haven't got time to show up and speak to your customers, how are you going to then attract them into your business to be able to buy your product or service?
Right.
It's all very well spending your time building these wonderful products and services. And believe me, I've been there, I've done it, you know, but building those relationships will be far more beneficial for you as you continue to develop those products and services. If that means going a little bit slower, then that's maybe what you have to do. But when you're creating content, you know, there are 3 particular areas. I always say about awareness. So how can you make people aware of what you're doing in a conversational way? Educate them. Why are you doing what you're doing? You know, is there a clear purpose behind your business? And more often than not, there is. And then there's getting involved. How do you get people involved? Now, as you know, Ange, I'm a big fan of groups and challenges and things like that, because I think when people get involved in your community and they become part of your community, they feel they're part of your business journey.
Yeah.
And there are different things to talk about with that in terms of responsibility you have to your audience, especially when they feel like they're part of something. So at the end of the day, it's still your business and there needs to be a clear boundary. But, you know, getting them involved enables you to listen to what they want. And they will be much more happier to tell you, which then means that you can then change or continue to evolve your product or service to meet them where they're at. And it's just about, and I always say this to people, it's just about making friends. It's about making friends online. That's what it comes down to. And you would do that, right? When you're making friends, you would invest that time, would you not?
Yes. That's a nice way to look at it, making friends online. This whole idea of what a stranger is just a friend you haven't met yet, right?
Yes, exactly. No, but it's so true. It's so true. And I love it because you can connect with people everywhere. I mean, I'm in the UK, I'm in Singapore, and we connect pretty much all the time. And it's like, you make friends. That's what you do. But you do it through.
It's amazing. It's the and I say, like, you were just what you mentioned earlier, just like I had a thought in my head when you were talking earlier about, in the olden days, as you say, how hard it was to market because it's so expensive. And there's never been a better time really to set up a business as now. It's just so easy to reach people, right? And it's just, as you say, just attracting the right community to you that will resonate with what you're doing and what you can give to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah. And that's perfect. Yeah. I think if I could give everyone one task to do, it's to have a look at your platforms, your website, and look at the promotional space you have. So normally on the website, that's the banners along the top. On Facebook, it will be your cover photo. On Instagram, it's your profile picture and your bio. Does it actually represent who you are and what you do? Are you using that space? Is there a clear call to action that sends people to your website or your blog or wherever you would like them to send them? And most often than not, it's not. People have just written stuff without any clear purpose behind it or clear intention.
Yeah.
And the number of times I look at that cover space, for example, on Facebook and say, that would have cost you a good few £1,000s many, many years ago. And now you look great and you've got a picture of a car up there. So someone comes to your website and looks at it and goes, what is it that you do? Because you've decided to have a quirky name for your business. What's the picture of a car going to do in terms of building that connection and establishing that trust? You do that not just through your voice, but you do it through the images that you post. You do it through the content that you create. You do it through the branding that you use. There are all these elements that you use within your business. And that's why at the beginning when I was talking about this, I said, it's the touch points across all of your business. It's about all those parts working together and taking your customer.
Telling that story, basically.
Yeah. To help them understand who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. So focusing on a few platforms at a time and getting really good and building a strong community on one platform, but one or two platforms, right? So how do you know when it's working? How do you know that you've kind of got there?
So I always I don't tend to look at follower numbers. I tend to look at reach and engagement numbers. So reach engagement numbers will always tell me how far my content has traveled. And then I can tell whether people are actually interacting with my content. And that's how you're going to tell. Ultimately, you'll tell because they're buying from you. That's your ultimate end. That's the end game, isn't it? But sometimes they're not ready to buy from you at that point, but they will happily contribute to your community and they will happily talk to other people in your community. The reason I say don't concentrate on follower numbers is because I actually look after a community at the moment. It's a B2B industry. They have got a very small following, but it's very hot. And what do I mean by that? I mean that their community members are active all the time. They're advocates for the brand and the business, and they will happily buy anything that's put out. And that's done by nurturing a very small community. Now, on the other end of that scale, personally, I have a very big community, as you know. And, I know that reach figure can sometimes go into, I'm fortunate enough that having had it for a long time, it's quite large numbers. So the reach number can go into like 3, 4, 5 million sometimes a week.
Right. Okay.
And that's a big number to manage, right, and monitor. But I can tell from that number the percentage of people that are then interacting with my posts, interacting with my group. I always notice if I put up salesy type posts, people tend to kind of sort of like back away from it. She's selling at me. But at the end of the day, you're a business and you're going to need to sell. However, what I do is I surround those sales posts with, maybe it's a fun post. Maybe it's a question. Maybe it's a poll. Maybe it's something that enables them to interact with me and help them feel they're part of the community. And all I want them to then do is see that sales post. And then I know from traffic going to the website whether it's working. So it's about using your numbers, I think, as well. And like I said, reach and engagement are the most important numbers when you're measuring the success of community.
Right. Okay. All right. So I think we'll leave it there. But is there anything that you haven't covered that you think is important for you to mention?
There's so much. There's so much to talk about with community. I'm so passionate about it, and I always forget how much I know about it because it's something I just do. If anyone's got any questions, I know that you'll be able to help them, for example, and if they want to reach out, then that's absolutely fine as well. But I'm excited because I just think we're in such an exciting time right now, and people with amazing opportunities. And they could really make a difference.
Yes. And I think as well, someone said, I heard on the radio just yesterday, they were saying basically that the COVID situation, as awful as it is, has just fast-tracked the inevitable digitization of everybody's lives, basically. Right? So it is,
Yeah, no, all I was going to touch on was say, I know the UK is slightly ahead of where you guys are at the moment. I think we're in our timings for the COVID and lockdown release. But when it first started, I think so, Ange, I'm not sure. But when it first started, it was amazing how many people reached out because they panicked that they didn't have a digital strategy, that they didn't have an online presence, or that the online presence they had was minimal. I know a lot of businesses, and I've been fortunate to be busy during this period because a lot of businesses have been trying to get that presence online. Yeah, it's exciting.
And it's amazing actually as well. A lot of it is it's the bigger companies that are stuck because they haven't put those processes in place.
Yeah, and actually because they're big, they don't have the agility that small businesses have that enable them to pivot. So it's a very interesting situation to have been watching, but has been actually, as awful as this sounds, in some ways an exciting time for digital because what we have had is all eyeballs online. So, ad spend and everything dropped right down because companies have pulled a lot of their budgets. What was happening was that, a lot of the platforms were giving preference to organic content without spend. And there was a lot of people watching that. But if you watch, where now lockdown has started to ease and everyone's starting to get into normal life, you'll start to notice, especially on Facebook and platforms like that, the Boost Me Now posts have started to come up. What they've done is they've actually manipulated their algorithm now to say, we're going to give less focus to organic content because you've had that for the last 3-4 months. And we need to start getting our ad spend up because as a business model, that's what they rely on for their money. And I think it's not something to get cross about. It's just, that is just how it is right now. And if you understand it, you can then work.
Market demand, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's marketing.
Yeah. All right. So I will post on the intro to this episode, and people will have the link to your website. So it's effiemoss.com, EFFIEMOSS.com. And so thank you so much for being on. It's been a pleasure to have you. It's a wonderful conversation. And I think people are in great hands with you.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. It's been a real pleasure. I've enjoyed it. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you, Effie. Okay.